Episode 4. The Weight of Returning Kolkata, February 20th, 2026. The bruises from the lane beating had mostly faded, yellow-green ghosts on his ribs, a faint pink line where his lip had split. Shash looked almost normal again in the mirror. Each morning. Almost, but normal was a lie now. Every night he closed his eyes, and the door opened. 6 hours of real sleep became 600 hours of blood, steel, dust, and the slow forging of something harder inside him. He woke each morning with new calluses, new scars that appeared overnight like quiet accusations, new muscle that he hid under loose hoodies and baggy college shirts. His mother had started looking at him strangely, asking if he was eating more protein, if he'd started lifting weights at the college gym. He always smiled and said, "Just growing up, Ma." He wasn't lying. Not exactly. In the realm he had buried Vikram with his own hands. He had carried the minister Devdutta's palanquin for 3 days, when the bearers were too injured to continue. He had walked into Pataliputra at the head of a bloodied, limping caravan, sword still crusted with drying gore, and Devdutta had kept his promise. The minister had spoken quietly to a palace steward. The steward had spoken to a captain of the royal guard. 3 days later realm time, Shash had been summoned to a small inner courtyard behind the emperor's private quarters. Ashoka had not yet become the Dharmashoka of the edicts. He was still the Bindusara Putra who crushed rebellions with cold efficiency. 34 years old, broad-shouldered, eyes like polished black onyx. He wore plain linen that day, no crown, no gold. Only a longsword at his hip and the faint scent of sandalwood and iron. He had studied Shash for a long minute without speaking. "You killed 10 men after your entire company fell," Ashoka said at last. His voice was low, almost gentle. Most would have run, or begged. Shash had kept his eyes on the ground. "I didn't want to die useless." Ashoka's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Useful is a dangerous word. He drew his own sword, simple, straight, single-edged. The blade had a faint reddish tint, along the fuller, as though the steel remembered blood. "Show me." Ashoka moved like water over stone. Smooth, inevitable. Shash lasted 37 heartbeats before the flat of the emperor's blade cracked across his knuckles and sent his sword spinning into the dust. He dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Ashoka sheathed his weapon. Again, tomorrow, dawn. And so it began. For 3 real-world weeks, 14 realm months, Shash trained under Ashoka, not as a prince's favorite, not as a prodigy, as a tool being sharpened. Ashoka taught him footwork first, then balance, then breathing, how to pull air deep even when ribs were cracked and lungs burned. Then angles, how a single degree of blade tilt could turn a killing cut into a glancing wound or miss entirely. Only after 7 months of dawn sessions did Ashoka bring out the second sword. It waited in a lacquered wooden box lined with red silk, the mystic blood sword, Rakta-Khadga. The hilt was plain black, iron wrapped in worn leather. The blade, when drawn, seemed to drink light. A thin, almost invisible red vein ran down the center, pulsing faintly when Ashoka's fingers closed around the grip. "This blade belonged to my grandfather," Ashoka said. "Chandragupta gave it to him when he was still a boy fighting the Nandas. It remembers every life it takes. It grows heavier with each one, stronger, hungrier." He offered the hilt to Shash. "Hold it." Shash's hand closed around the leather. The sword did not feel heavy. It felt familiar, like it had been waiting. Ashoka watched his face. "You feel it?" Shash nodded once. "Then listen well," Ashoka said. "The mystic sword technique is not about strength. It is about intent. Coat the blade with your will. Let your aura flow like blood through veins. When the edge meets flesh, it should not meet resistance. It should simply continue." He demonstrated. One slow, deliberate slash. The air parted with a soft hiss. A bamboo practice post 10 feet away, thick as a man's thigh, fell in 2 clean halves. No chip, no splinter, just perfect separation. Shash tried. Nothing happened at first. His aura, still faint, still newborn, flickered and died. Ashoka did not mock him. He simply said, "Again." Months passed. Until one dawn, after a night in which Shash had killed 27 bandits in a border skirmish and come back to the palace limping and hollow-eyed, something clicked. He drew the practice blade, breathed deep, felt the thin blue shimmer rise along the edge. He cut. The bamboo post didn't just fall. It parted so cleanly that the 2 halves stood for half a second before gravity remembered them. Ashoka watched. Shash woke in his Kolkata bed with sweat soaking the sheets and a new sensation in his palms, like static waiting to discharge. He flexed his fingers. Faint blue light danced for half a second between them, then vanished. He stared at his hands in the dark. "I'm changing," he whispered to the empty room. And he was terrified. Real world, March 3rd, 2026. Rohan had not forgotten. The memory of that afternoon in the lane had festered. He remembered the cold stare, the birds flying away, the way his own spine had crawled with sudden animal fear. He hated it. He hated Shashank Roy for making him feel that, so he planned nothing flashy. Nothing that would draw police or college authorities, just a quiet, brutal lesson after dark. He chose the narrow service lane behind the old printing press near the college back gate. Few lights, no cameras. Perfect. He told Surav and Mintu to bring 2 more boys, Kunal and Deep, ones who liked hurting people and asked few questions. They waited on March 3rd, half an hour after the last lecture ended. Shash always took the back way home. He liked the quiet. He liked avoiding the main rower. It should not meet resistance. It should simply continue. He demonstrated. One slow, deliberate slash. The air parted with a soft hiss. A bamboo practice post 10 feet away, thick as a man's thigh, fell in 2 clean halves. No chip, no splinter. Just perfect separation. Shash tried. Nothing happened at first. His aura, still faint, still newborn, flickered and died. Ashoka did not mock him. He simply said, again, and again, and again. Months passed, until one dawn, after a night in which Shash had killed 27 bandits in a border skirmish and come back to the palace limping and hollow-eyed, something clicked. He drew the practice blade, breathed deep, felt the thin blue shimmer rise along the edge. He cut. The bamboo post didn't just fall. It parted so cleanly that the 2 halves stood for half a second before gravity remembered them. Ashoka watched. Shash woke in his Kolkata bed, with sweat soaking the sheets and a new sensation in his palms, like static waiting to discharge. He flexed his fingers. Faint blue light danced for half a second between them, then vanished. He stared at his hands in the dark. "I'm changing," he whispered to the empty room. And he was terrified. Real world, March 3rd, 2026. Rohan had not forgotten. The memory of that afternoon in the lane had festered. He remembered the cold stare, the birds flying away, the way his own spine had crawled with sudden animal fear. He hated it. He hated Shashank Roy for making him feel that. So he planned nothing flashy. Nothing that would draw police or college authorities. Just a quiet, brutal lesson after dark. He chose the narrow service lane behind the old printing press, near the college back gate. Few lights, no cameras. Perfect. He told Surav and Mintu to bring 2 more boys, Kunal and Deep ones, who liked hurting people and asked few questions. They waited on March 3rd, half an hour after the last lecture ended. Shash always took the back way home. He liked the quiet. He liked avoiding the main rower. He liked avoiding the main road where people stared. Tonight he was tired. He had just finished a 3-hour realm dive the previous night. Another border patrol, another dozen dead bandits, another dawn lesson with Ashoka. His shoulders ached. His left forearm, where a bandit's dagger had bitten deep, throbbed with a fresh white scar that had appeared while he slept. He walked with his head down, hands in hoodie pockets. He didn't see them until he was already in the middle of the lane. Rohan stepped out from behind a stack of discarded newsprint rolls. "Hey, hero!" Shash stopped. 4 shadows moved to block the exit behind him. 5 total. Rohan cracked his knuckles. "You made me look weak in front of my boys," he said. "That day, that look you gave me, I've been thinking about it." Shash's heart rate climbed. Not fear, not exactly. Something colder. He kept his voice level. "I didn't mean to." They moved. Kunal came first. Fast, fist aimed at Shash's jaw. Shash could have ended it in one heartbeat. He could have coated his fist in aura and shattered Kunal's arm. He could have drawn the kitchen knife he now carried hidden in his waistband and painted the lane red, but he didn't. He took the punch. It rocked his head back. Blood bloomed inside his mouth. He staggered. Deliberately, Surav grabbed him from behind in a choke. Mintu kicked him in the stomach. Once, twice. Shash let them. He let the pain remind him what he used to be. He let them think they were winning. Rohan stepped close. "Look at me," he hissed. Shash lifted his head slowly. His right eye was already swelling. Blood trickled from his nose. But the gaze was the same, flat, cold, unblinking. Rohan felt it again. That same crawling dread. He snarled and raised his fist. And then, a new sound. Quick footsteps. Rubber soles on concrete. Riya Sen appeared at the mouth of the lane like a storm wearing black track pants and a fitted white t-shirt. Her ponytail swung like a whip. She took one look, Shash bleeding, 5 boys surrounding him. And something in her face changed. Not anger, something merciless. She didn't shout. She didn't warn. She simply moved. Rohan turned too late. Riya's right hook cracked across his face with perfect technique, knuckles aligned, hips rotated, full body weight behind it. The sound was wet and final. Rohan's nose burst like an overripe tomato. Blood sprayed in an arc. He screamed. High, shocked. Riya didn't pause. She pivoted and drove her knee into Surav's solar plexus. He folded, gasping. Mintu swung wildly. Riya caught his wrist, twisted, stepped in and slammed her elbow into his temple. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Kunal tried to run. Riya caught him by the collar, yanked him back, and delivered a palm strike to his nose. Same technique, same precision. He collapsed crying. Deep, biggest of them. Charged like a bull. Riya sidestepped, grabbed his arm, used his momentum to spin him into the wall. His forehead met brick. He slid down, dazed. The lane was suddenly very quiet. Only Rohan's bubbling, wet sobs. Riya walked to him. He was on his knees, clutching his ruined face. She crouched, grabbed his blood-soaked collar with one hand, yanked his head up so he had to meet her eyes. Her voice was soft, cold, merciless. Listen carefully, she said. Next time I see any of you, within 50 feet of Shashank, you won't go to the hospital. Do you understand? Rohan nodded frantically. Once, twice. She let go. He collapsed forward, retching. Riya stood. She turned to Shash. He was still standing, bleeding, swaying slightly, but upright. She walked to him. Her hands hovered, wanting to touch his face, his arms to check damage, but she stopped herself. You idiot, she whispered. Shash tried to smile through split lips. Sorry? Again. Riya's eyes shimmered. She punched his shoulder, lightly. Then, suddenly, she pulled him into a fierce hug. He froze. Her arms were strong, warm, shaking just a little. Don't apologize, she said into his shoulder. Don't you dare. Her eyes were fierce again. Come on, I'm taking you home, and you're telling me everything that's been going on. Shash looked down at the 5 broken boys scattered around the lane. He felt something loosen in his chest. Not relief, not triumph. Just recognition. He wasn't alone anymore. Even if she didn't know why he didn't need saving. Even if he could never tell her. He nodded. Okay. Behind them, Rohan sobbed quietly into the concrete. The night smelled of blood and diesel, and the faint perfume of jasmine from Riya's hair. Shash thought, maybe the rabbit doesn't have to become a lion alone. Maybe sometimes the lion comes looking for the rabbit. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. That night realm when sleep took him, the door opened again. This time it was different. The corridor stretched longer. More doors glowed, some gold, some crimson, some cold blue. But the red gold door to Magadha was brighter than ever. Shash stepped through. He stood once more in the small courtyard. Ashoka waited. No guards, no witnesses. Only the Emperor and the boy from another time. Ashoka looked at him, really looked. You carry new scars, he said. Shash touched the fresh cut on his lip. Old habits. Then he drew the Rakta-Khadga, held it out, hilt first. Take it. Shash closed his fingers around the hilt. The red vein pulsed once. Bright, approving. Ashoka stepped back, noticing the blade react to Shash. Shash looked at the sword in his hand. It felt right. Too right. He raised his eyes. Thank you. Ashoka's gaze was unreadable. The dawn light in the realm brightened. Shash felt the pull, the 6 hours ending. He bowed. Small, respectful. Then he stepped backward. The door closed. In his Kolkata bedroom, Shash opened his eyes. His right hand was clenched. When he opened it, a faint red outline marked his palm. Not a scar, a promise. Somewhere in India, in a forgotten ruin, in a museum vault, in a smuggler's warehouse, the Rakta-Khadga waited.